So, hello, and thank all of you for joining us here today. For far too long, oil and gas companies have padded the pockets at the expense of American consumers and frontline communities, all while fueling our global climate crisis. Our country doesn't need more LNG facilities or oil exports. What it needs is an oil change. And that is why I am joined here today with environmental justice advocates from frontline communities across America to reintroduce the blocking all new fossil fuel exports ban, also known as the Ban Fossil Fuel Exports Act. This important legislation would ban the export of crude oil and natural gas produced in the United States. It will help prioritize American consumers, protect our climate, and promote environmental justice and put the United States on a path to self-sufficiency through domestic clean energy production. This bill is what our communities deserve, not fossil fuel profiteering or LNG facilities that spew toxic chemicals into the air. I know I speak for all of us up here when I say I am sick of big oil making our communities sick. I am sick of big oil sob stories about the need to increase domestic oil production as they simultaneously clamor to export more and more fossil fuels overseas. And I am sick of the boomeranging bills at the end of the month as big oil prices gouge American consumers as the oil companies' profits skyrocket. Fossil fuel exports are hurting American consumers, not helping them. In fact, earlier this year, the Energy Information Agency, our own federal agency, found that our natural gas exports were increasing prices for domestic consumers. So ordinary families have to pay more on their natural gas bill because the big oil and gas companies want to sell it overseas. But that leaves less here, which drives up the price for natural gas for people who are trying to heat their homes. So we know who pays the price for their profits. It's the people who are represented by all of these great leaders who are here today. And in 2020, a Government Accountability Office report found that the repeal of the previous oil export ban allowed U.S. crude oil producers to charge higher prices. And again, whether it be oil or natural gas, the less we have here because it's being exported overseas where those countries will pay more, results in consumers here having less oil, and as a result, the oil and gas companies can charge more for the reduced amount of oil and gas that we have here. It's a very simple play. It's supply and demand, and what they try to do is take care of their customers overseas and then have the consumers of ordinary families have to pay the price. Americans should not have to bear the health and economic burden of this corporate greed. It is time we bring back the ban on fossil fuel exports. A ban on oil and natural gas exports overseas is a win for environmental justice, for our economy, for our planet, and for consumers and small businesses all across our country. We must end our fossil fuel addiction and invest in clean energy so that communities across the country have a cleaner, safer, more livable future. Our communities must no longer bear the burden of polluting fossil fuel infrastructure. And I look forward to hearing from the advocates here today about why it is so important that we pass this legislation and bring back this fossil fuel exports ban once and for all to protect our own country. So now I'd like to begin by introducing Louise Malvo from Mossville, Louisiana. Welcome. How are we going to do this?
Deborah, her name is Deborah.
Oh, it's Lois.
Let Deborah speak first. Deborah want to speak. Okay, so me, Deborah, Deborah, you want to speak?
Hello, everyone. I'm so grateful to be here to speak on the behalf of all people. I want to send a message to industry and to our government. Please stop the destruction and the destruction of killing our people and destroying this wonderful world that God has created for us to live in harmony and peace and happiness. Please stop. You know what you're doing wrong. You have heard it over and over and over again, what you're doing wrong. We need you to correct your wrongs. We need you to clean up the polluted areas in the world so we all can live longer and happier. We also need you to make sure that you bring in the new technology, because they have new technology that you can use to better the world. We need you to put it in place as soon as possible. We need our people who have been affected with their health and everything. We need you to compensate these people. And we need you to do what's right. It don't take long and it don't take much to do what's right. Stop killing the people, please. I'm begging you. And God bless everybody in the world today, now, forever, and always.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. That was great. Now we're going to hear from Gwen Jones from Freeport, Texas. Welcome.
Thank you, Senator Merkel. I am blessed to be here today and speak on behalf not only Freeport, Texas, which a lot of y'all have never heard of before. It's in the Gulf of Mexico, Surfside Beach, between Houston and Galveston, right there on the coast. And what I would like to say about myself before I start anything is that I am a proud black African-American woman whose ancestors were descendants of slaves. Some of my ancestors who survived this inhumane treatment across the Atlantic with shackles around their neck, waist, legs, landed in Virginia to be sold to the highest bidder as a piece of property. They lost their culture, name, parents, siblings, children, spouse, home, language, life as they know it. They were lynched, beaten, raped, and treated worse than an animal. But they never lost their faith and trust in God. And we know through their faith and trust in God that we are standing where we are today. And I think what Senator Merkel had just said, but a lot of times people put things in writing. I want actions. I want execution. In Freeport, Texas, where my grandfather was the first black teacher there for color school, we live in a segregated area. It was owned by the sulfur plant. We have over 20-some industries in Freeport, Texas, with a population of 13,000 people. Well, I want the same thing he wants, but I want the executive order to stop it now. We are dying. We didn't even know the water being polluted, the air polluted, the soil polluted. I have seen so many of my ancestors not knowing what was happening to them, just steady dying and not knowing what's happening, and it goes through the bloodstream. So we now have a fourth generation where we have a rapid increase of cancer, respiratory problems, dialysis, heart condition, and diseases that not even known of. So I thank God for what he said, but I know so many things was written in action that we still fighting for equal justice, but now we fighting for our life. And I am for this ban to be passed. I want the Biden administration to understand when he relied on the black African American and the youth for his vote, he needs to deliver, because he could sign an executive order right now and say stop it and save lives, because all the lives that have passed because of all these industries and my loved ones, that blood is on him. Thank you.
Beautiful. Amen. Next, we're going to hear from Krista Mencius from Rio Grande Valley. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. My name is Krista Mencius. I am from the Carrizo Come Crudo tribe of Texas. Let's speak some real truth. The real truth is that not just indigenous communities, but the communities of the Gulf South are under attack. We are under attack by the fossil fuel industry, by the continuation of being killed and murdered and pillaged in our own homes for hundreds of years. That's the real truth. 530 years ago, we had visitors that came across the ocean to do one thing, to export all the resources out of this beautiful land and send them overseas. And 530 years later, they're still doing the same thing for profit in their pocket and not in the people. That's what we need to talk about. Where is the people? We're the people. We speak for ourselves. We have these voices to be here. At home in Brownsville, we're being attacked with the last pristine part of the Texas Gulf Coast to propose 2 LNGs terminals on our sacred homelands of the Carrizo Come Crudo. We're talking about an economic system that's already in place and has been placed for hundreds of years with families and home businesses for tourism. We're talking about Port Isabel. We're talking about South Padre Island. People come for all over the world to come and be in this pristine part and experience the natural beauty that this part of Texas has to offer. And the 2 LNG terminals want to be built on this pristine, beautiful, sacred land to my people, and continue the genocide of that continuation to kill the Native American people of this country, the original peoples of this land. When is that going to stop? These bans on these exports need to be put in place to stop that genocide. Because now it's not just genocide on the indigenous people, it is genocide on the humanity of the people that live and breathe in this country, who live and are affected by these communities. We need to demand. We're not asking anymore. We are demanding. We are standing united, not only nationwide, but with our friends that are also all over the world. They're the ones being affected. We're being affected here at home, and we demand a change, and we demand ban on fossil fuels now. Thank you.
Beautiful job. Next, we're going to hear from Elita Castillo from Corpus Christi, Texas.
Good afternoon. My name is Elita Castillo. I am the program director for Chispa, Texas, which is a program of the League of Conservation Voters, but I am also a frontline community member from the Coastal Bend area, where we have experienced rampant industrial build-out since the export ban was lifted. They said that repealing the ban would lead to more jobs, lower energy costs, and all these benefits. But, lower prices at the pump, to name a few of the supposed benefits. However, we have not experienced that. What we have seen is the Port of Corpus Christi scooping up land in our communities, displacing historical neighborhoods to lease out to LNG facilities, crude, and other petrochemical industries. We have seen more pollution and an increase in people with health problems due to the lax regulations in our state. We have seen our coastline erode due to the heavier ship traffic that is passing through our coastal communities to export our resources to other countries. We have witnessed our bay, which sustains many in the region, increasing in salinity due to the dredge projects to accommodate the large tankers, which threaten our estuaries and have resulted in the loss of hundreds of acres of protective seagrass. And we aren't the only ones witnessing this. I have friends here from Freeport, Port Arthur, the Rio Grande Valley, Louisiana, and other places who can attest to this. All of us cannot be wrong. Lifting the ban was an experiment, one that is okay to admit that failed, but it's also one that we shouldn't continue supporting. Our resources are not infinite, and we should be responsible for how we tend to them instead of exporting every drop of oil and fracked gas. If there truly is a commitment to environmental justice and consideration for the debt we're leaving behind to future generations, then I urge all members of Congress to support reinstating the ban. I thank Senator Markey for taking the lead on passing this historic legislation, and I demand from all members of Congress to support this legislation because we deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we're going to hear from Sharon Levine from St. James, Louisiana.
Good afternoon. I'm Sharon Levine from Rise St. James, from St. James, Louisiana. We are asking Congress to stop the harmful effects of fossil fuels in our communities and bring broader attention to calls on President Biden to deny approval for proposed oil and gas. Thank you. Oil and gas. And stop supporting fossil fuels. They declare a climate emergency to reinstate the crude oil export ban. Export terminals and infrastructure are cited in long-suffering, low-income, Black, brown, and indigenous communities due to the decade of economic exploitation and systematic racism. These same communities are also the hardest hit by climate change, which is caused by the emissions from fossil fuel production and use. Increased production driven by increased exports has driven a massive wave of investment in new facilities to put these chemicals to use, particularly to make plastics and their petrochemical building blocks. In addition to the climate damage and local harms, fracking caused the expansion of petrochemicals and plastic production endangers even more communities. We should be rapidly transitioned to a just, clean, forever future, not doubling down on fossil fuels. Exporting U.S. gas, oil, and LNG drives up domestic prices and industry profit. They make profit while we suffer, while we get cancer. We can do better, much better. Stop the bailout of crude oil and LNG export facilities along the U.S. Gulf Coast. Thank you.
Beautiful job. Beautiful job. Now, any questions that anyone may have? Yes, sir. Who are you?
I'm Joseph Lord. I'm with the Epic Times. I've covered this issue before. So one issue that I find with, or that I've heard with the clean energy projects, is at the moment we just don't have the infrastructure to even transfer this power across the country. According to people I've talked to, a lot of that is because of the permitting rules, regulations. So in conjunction with this, would you support relaxing permitting requirements so we could actually move clean energy across the country? Because right now we don't have the capacity for that.
Well, right now the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission has 60% of the capacity right now to solve the issues of sending clean energy across this country. They can do that already. What we want to see is a discussion that would take place in our country about how we can change the permitting rules for transmission that accelerates that clean energy generation, wind and solar, and gets it into the cities and towns so that we don't need an acceleration of oil and gas drilling, which causes environmental concerns, asthma, premature births as huge issues in our country. So yes, the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission should do its job. It's paralyzed. It doesn't have a majority. It has 2-2. And why is it 2-2? It's 2-2 so they can't act on existing authority. And beyond that, we need to find a way of, yes, passing legislation, but to accelerate clean energy generation without causing environmental concerns in the communities that already are plagued. Any other questions? Yes, sir. Who are you?
Zach with The Hill. Just to clarify, do you have House version of the bill and or any co-sponsors on that?
Yeah, we're working on that. Rosemary, our communications director, is right behind you, so she can give you the information on that. Yes, sir. Thank you. Yes, sir. Who are you?
Ramsey with the Washington Times.
Hi.
Hey, energy analysts say that this sort of ban would only hike prices because they argue that this is a global energy market. It would decrease production. I'm wondering what you make of those arguments.
Well, obviously, the natural gas industry wants to turn it into a global marketplace. Natural gas has historically been a domestic market where we produce the natural gas that we need. But as you're hearing, they want to build LNG facilities all across the region in order to export the natural gas. So those analysts are asking us to defy what we learned in Economics 101. When supply decreases, when you take the natural gas we have and you send it overseas, it obviously leaves less natural gas here, and the price is going to escalate. The Energy Information Agency has been saying that for more than a decade, and they continue to reiterate that truth, while simultaneously saying, yes, the oil and gas industry will reap the largest, highest price that they can extract as the oil and gas is out on the high seas. Yeah, high bidders will come in, including those from China. But for the people in Louisiana and Texas and other states across our country, they are the ones who would really pay the price with higher bills and greater exposure to environmental risk for their families.
Exactly.
Question? Anyone? Yes. Who are you with, sir?
Just from Maui. I'm visiting.
No. We're this. I'm sorry. This is a press con. It's a press conference, sir. Yeah. So, any other questions that anyone has? Thank you all so much for coming, and thanks for the great job for all of our activists that have joined us here today. Thank you. Thank you. You're great. You are so great. Thank you. Great job. Great job.